All right, good morning, everyone. This is Nithin Ramachandra from the NRR Sports Show. This is episode 918. We are live on Spreaker right now, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. I'm joined by a really special guest. Her name is Michelle Snow. She's a former WNBA player. She went to Tennessee for college. She's from Florida. She played with a lot of teams, EuroLeague, overseas. She's Olympics experience, gold medalist, bronze medal. Man, she did everything. Two-time WNBA All-Star, NWBL champion, Israel National League champion, and Euro Cup winner in 2012. Man, I really looking forward to this interview, Michelle. I just want to say thank you again for coming on, and you're the definition of woman in sports. And first of all, how are you and your family doing today?
First, thanks for having me on the show. Second, my family and I are doing great, enjoying the beautiful Florida weather. I know most people are going in the fall. It's a little different here. We have one season year round.
Yeah. Yeah, so I want to start off with your childhood growing up. And for you, growing up in Pensacola, Florida, what was that like growing up as a child there? And when did you realize that you wanted to get into sports and especially basketball? And who was your biggest role model in that when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, we had what we call Soul Food Sundays, which is a Black tradition, where the whole family gets together, the grandparents cook, and afterwards we go to the park and everyone's playing basketball. Of course, the women are cheering. They're sitting in the stands cheering. They're trying to get me to cheer. And I'm like, I'm going with my dad. And I'm just running behind him up and down the court, getting trampled, by the way. And that's happened probably since I was able to walk. Wow. And then they just told me when I was older, like 8 or 9, the only rule is if you get hit, if somebody runs you over, you can't cry. You got to keep playing or go sit down. And I was like, I won't cry. And those were some of the worst licks ever from a grown man. And they're not intentional. They're going to play hard. Yeah. And I think for me, it was the turning point because women are not as strong as a grown man, especially at that age. And I had to adapt my game big time to even be out there with them. Mm-hmm. And that's really where everything started. Those are my role models, like my uncles. I give them a ton of credit. They would take me to practice one-on-one at the park late at night. And that's really where I got my start.
Yeah. So like player wise, who do you look up to in the WNBA or NBA or whatever sport you watched? And who do you look up to mainly?
There are a few people. I think when it comes to women, Serena Williams is one of the top athletes across the board. LeBron James is another one of my favorite athletes. Before that, it was Shaquille O'Neal. Because I'm a post player, so I love watching their game. And then you saw Kevin Durant come out, who plays like I do. Right. And who has kind of changed how the league is played. So it's, I love watching him play because it's an honest to the fact that I was just before my time. Mm-hmm. Like I wasn't that cornbread post player and people couldn't understand. It almost cost me a chance to play in the pros. Oh, wow. Because teams didn't know what to do with me. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, just give me a chance to let me play. So, and now you see that that's what the game looks like across the board.
Yeah. So this is a two-part question. And for you in high school, did you get to play multiple positions? Obviously, you were power forward and center throughout your career, but did you get to play like point guard, shooting guard? Because you know how in today's generation, these teams love to have players. It's a positionless now game, and they like to put players everywhere, anywhere. But for you, did you get to learn any other position before power forward and center?
That's funny that you asked that question because I actually was a point guard. Oh, wow. I went from 5'5" to 6'5" in 1 year. No growing pains, nothing. Like no problems with my knees between my 8th grade and 9th grade year. So junior high to high school, I just shot up and I never grew again, but I just shot up about a foot. So I went from being the point guard facilitating and, learning how to play crafty because you're smaller than everyone else to being the biggest one on the floor and still having the skills of a point guard, being able to shoot from the outside, all of that. And I think that is the reason why when I got the height, I was able to play multiple positions and play in a different way than people had seen before. And I'll be honest, it was difficult because everyone wanted to put me on the block and leave me there and tell me, as you get taller, you can't shoot from the outside. It's almost like that. I kind of felt like they treated it like post players are dumb. And all you can do is stand right here by the basket, okay? And I was like, I can move, I have speed, I'm running the same times as guards on our team. I out jump everyone in the gym. Mm-hmm. don't limit me, and I never allow people to limit me. I always knew that I had more potential. And I think this younger generation is coming along, and there's so many of them that the game has had to adapt. Whereas before, I was kind of the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. So speaking of, when did you ever think to yourself, maybe when did you start realizing about the growth spurt? And for you, what was your training process like back in the day when you were working on your craft? And what was it? Yeah, what was that training process like for you?
Well, it started with my uncles. They would buy me the dribbling glasses. They would give me or buy different things and make me do different drills. And as I got one drill down, they'd add another one. And I did that all the way through probably middle school. And then eventually playing against them, I learned a lot more. The experience of playing against bigger guys, grown men, it just taught me to be more agile and crafty around the basket. And then when I went to high school, my high school coach was an All-American. So I had someone who had been where I wanted to be that could truly start teaching me the fundamentals of the game, keep the ball high as a post player, because I knew nothing about playing as a post. I never played like that. So I think I give my uncles and then my high school coach, Allison Davis, a ton of credit when it comes to really showing me how to own my game and still be who I was.
Yeah, so speaking, obviously you're a point guard, and how big of an impact was it when you were a point guard, and obviously when you switched over to power forward center? And I mean, a lot of big people are now better passers now because in this game. So for you, how did it help you become being a former point guard and now being a power forward center, and obviously still having the ability to pass the ball?
Great question. Interestingly enough, being the point guard, you're the floor general. You have to see everything and understand what's going on. And I took that with me to the post because I'm like, okay, the point guard sees everything, but when you think about it, so does the post player. They're in a prime position facing the floor and they can see everything as well. And they're the closest to the basket. So they have a little bit more of an advantage. And I just started taking the point guard mentality down to the post. And I would step out to the short corner, the high post, and play like a guard because post players were not accustomed to that. Right. They didn't know how to see the floor because they were taught just stand in this spot, rebound, and it was a real lethargic type of position and very limited. And now you see that has changed. You got to be able to play every position now. You're not going to be on the floor.
Yeah, so I want to get to your college. Tell our fans about your college recruitment process. Obviously, being from Florida, how many offers did you get? And did you get any offers from Florida, FSU, Florida State? And what made you choose Tennessee?
I got offers from all the Florida schools. It's interesting. I actually told my mom I'd get 17 scholarships when I was like 8 or 9. And on signing day, I actually brought her a box with 150 scholarships. And I had Harvard, Stanford, Duke. I'd already passed my ACTs in the 10th grade. So I was ready to go to college. And once people saw, she got the brains and the basketball, it was really easy to get opportunities, especially when you're 6'5" and can play the way I did. And then I really wanted to go to either University of Florida, North Carolina, or Tennessee. And I grew up very poor. I didn't watch television, so I really didn't know who Pat Summitt was. And people don't believe. I'm like, I really didn't know who she was. Sorry. I was like, I knew she had won 3 championships. Like I learned really fast that she was the most powerful person in women's basketball. But for me, I just didn't see that and grow up around that. So I also am that type that I don't mind going somewhere else. Like I don't have to do that. So North Carolina, the coach there, Sylvia Hatchell, her niece played on my high school team. So my freshman year, she offered me a full ride to North Carolina. I spent every summer in North Carolina, had great relationships with them. University of Florida was interesting. I would love to play for my home state. And Carol Ross was the coach down there. They made a huge mistake on signing day because they had me and my best friend. We were going to go to college together.
Oh, wow. And
they called and told my best friend if I didn't sign, they didn't want her. And this was her dream school. Wow. And she's sitting there crying. And I was like, yo, we're not going. I'm not going there. You're not going there. And I was like, but I'm not going to Alabama because they want to put 30 pounds on me and make me a 250-pound post. Not doing that either. So it came down to North Carolina and Tennessee. Very difficult decision. And I called Pat Summitt and told her, I said, hey, I'm going to wait until the spring to sign. Okay. She said, I'll be there tomorrow, and hung up in my face. straight up hung up. I was like, what the? Like everyone else is like kissing your butt. And she like hangs up in your face. I'm like, lady's not coming down here tomorrow, whatever. I get to school the next day and there's like this long walkway to get to the school. And she's standing there. And I walk up to her and she's like, sit down. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you tripping. Like, you're really tripping. So I sit down and she like takes out a piece of paper and she draws a line down the middle of it. And she puts Tennessee on one side, UConn on the other side. And she said, you told me you wanted to be one of the best. And she said, if you come to Tennessee, you're going to play against the best every single day and get the exposure you need to turn professional. And she says, I know you want to turn professional. Your mother's sick and you really are trying to find a way to help and ease that burden on your family. She said, number one, we have 18 Olympians. They have 1. We have this many people in the pros. They have like 2. Then she said, we have 2 championships. Then she marked it out. She said, we're going to win this year, and writes a 3. And she goes, they have 1. And I'm just sitting here like, and she said, oh, graduation rates. I think they're around 40% or something. We're at 100%. So you're going to leave out of here with a degree, playing at the best school, getting the exposure that you need to play professional. If you want to be the best that you want to be, then you'll sign the paper. And then she pushes the paper in my chest and walks off. I'm sitting there like this. This lady is nuts.
Oh my God.
Absolutely nuts. Needless to say, I was like, I want to see what this is all about. I want to understand why, like her confidence, her aura, I wanted to know more and I wanted to be around that. It was different than everything else. And so I signed and I went to Tennessee and it was everything she said it would be. Hell for 4 years.
Hey, that's amazing recruitment process right there. And what a great story. Yeah. And obviously, I mean, that's when a person wants someone really bad to come and sign. And for you, obviously speaking of that and having that support system around you throughout your career, and especially obviously the late past Summitt now, and what a great career she had. And obviously she has ties with Candace Parker. And Candace Parker got emotional during her post game with Holly Rowe, and when she mentioned it. But for you, what was it like playing underneath her? And Tennessee has a great historic college program. And what was it like playing in front of those fans and playing underneath her, and just getting that the coaching with her and seeing how she went about her business?
And I know most people will say, oh my God, it was a dream. It was everything I thought it would be. And I'm like, it was hell. Okay. It was like we butted heads for 4 years, but it wasn't the type of hell that it was unbearable. It was just, I'm stubborn and she's stubborn. And she's older, she's smarter, and she's just, like she was just determined to show me. One, she always breaks people down. That's one thing she talked about in all of her books. She's going to break you down and she's going to rebuild you into a better version of yourself. And that can be very difficult because a lot of grown people don't want to do the work. When we lose a relationship, lose a job, we just give up and quit. She teaches you just how strong and how tough you are. And when you got 2 stubborn people doing that, I made it harder on myself. So part of that hell was my own stubbornness, being young and foolish. But it was the best decision I ever made because she did exactly that. She broke me down and made me into a better version of myself and taught me how to continue to do that throughout my life. And I think that's the biggest gift she's ever given me. And she gives that to each and every one of her players. She becomes like a second mom. And she's going to push you to be the very best that you can be. And people go, oh, well, that's great. And I go, do you realize what the process is in order to do that? It's hard. You're going to cry a lot. You're going to self-reflect a lot. And as you continue shedding things that no longer serve you, it's hard. It's very difficult. So I tell people it was 4 years that were very tough. And she always told me, she was like, I'm not worried about you. You'll come back. And I remember going back 2 years later and just giving her the biggest hug and being like, thank you so much. I love you. I appreciate you because everything that you taught me, I get. And I said, and I know why we bumped heads. Me and her are just alike. I have the same cold stare she has. I can mimic her to a T. And she's like, no, we're not. And Mickey looks over. Mickey DeMoss, who's the assistant coach, goes, yes, you are. Y'all are just alike, and that's why y'all bump heads the way you do.
Oh, that's amazing. And for you, what was your reaction when you heard the news when she passed away, and what was that feeling like? And obviously, it was devastating when she passed away.
Very. Shamiko called me and she said, so you need to get to Knoxville. Pat's not gonna make it. And I was like, okay, I'll leave first thing in the morning. She said, no, leave now. She's probably not gonna make it through the night. And from Pensacola to Knoxville is an 8-hour drive door to door. And I remember getting there, getting to the hospital, and everything was shut down, no visitors. And I remember I just slept out there outside the door on the floor. And I was just sitting there like, I want to be the first one here in the morning. And Tyler came out, and me and Tyler are like this. You see Tyler, you see me in Tennessee. That's just how it was. And he comes out and he's like, you been out here all night? And I'm like, yes. Like, yo, I got to get in the room. And I just walked in and she's trying to talk to me. And I'm like, you don't have to say anything. At this point, I know you love me. I'm strong enough. I get it. Like, I'm no longer fighting you to carry the torch and to be the person you're telling me that I can be and that you've shown me I can be. I got this. Like, you can rest. Know that your legacy is moving on. Know that we got Tyler. Know that the tradition will always live on. And it was just hard because you see her trying to talk and she's got tubes. It was tough.
Wow.
It was way too much.
So this is a two-part question here. Tell our fans about the fan base at Tennessee, and obviously, did the practices remind you of being in boot camp?
Being in Navy SEAL boot camp. Jeez. Practices were tough. They were super tough, and she was always on me every day, every play. She's just gonna stay on me about the little things. She's a stickler for doing all of the little things right. And you know, when you're 6'5", you can shortcut things. And she would just always be on me like, no, you don't understand how key you are to the championship. You're the person that gets the rebounds. You're the one that starts to break. If we don't have the ball, we can't win. And she would just go off on me over and over every day in front of media, everybody. But you were going to do it her way, and you're going to do it the right way. The fans, that was like playing in the pros. I got to the pros and I was like, I already been here. Like, our fans are crazy and nuts. The arena is packed every single night. You got people screaming Rocky Top, all shades of orange. We don't really have one set. It's just all shades. And they're going bananas. It's a very difficult arena to walk into for other teams than play in. I love the fans. I'm going to always love the Rocky Top fans because they took me in, they adopted me as one of their own, and they made my college experience something that I always cherish and remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so now let's talk about your draft experience. Obviously, you got selected in 2002, round 1, pick 10 by the Houston Comets. And once, what was it like for you spending time with your family, waiting for your name to be called? And once you got the name called, and you said to yourself, I finally got to my goal. I worked hard. You had a coach who just stood behind you from day one, Pat Summitt. She really wanted you, and she gave you the opportunity to go to the league, and you did. And what was that like, the draft experience for you, and once you got your name called?
The draft experience was interesting for several different reasons. People don't really know this, but our rival, Jim Foster, is one of the reasons I ended up in Houston.
Oh, wow.
Is I did a workout. I was hanging out at Vanderbilt with some of my friends over there, and we were all playing in the gym. And he just comes out and he's asking me all these questions. He's watching me play and he sees that I can face up. He's like, I didn't know. Like, this is our rival in college. He's like, I didn't know you could face the basket and shoot. I didn't know you could put the ball on the floor. I didn't know you were a point guard. And so he's seeing all these things. I didn't know that I was talking to the consultant for the Houston Comets.
Right.
And so he's telling them all these different things. Like, this kid has a lot of potential that people don't know about, because at Tennessee, I was on the block. Like, that's just how I played within their system. Because you got so many great players, that's the role I had to play. So it was interesting having him give that nod, like, this is the person you should take. This kid's gonna be really, really phenomenal in the league. And I ended up going to Houston, and they really just let me play my way. They let me face up and do all the different things, because you got Tina, Cheryl, Janeth Arcane, Cynthia Cooper, all of them are getting double teamed. So when you got a post player that you can throw it in, that can bring it up the floor, that can pull up and hit the free throw or the short jump shot, it made their lives easier. And it also gave me an opportunity to showcase my game. Now, the best moment ever, you already mentioned it. My parents being there and watching me be drafted. After everything they had to sacrifice and do for me to get there, there's no moment that is over that one.
Yeah. So speaking of family and when you got drafted and going to the locker room, and what was it like playing with a player like Tina Charles? What did you learn from her, and what was that like?
And Tina Thompson is a
I mean,
beast.
sorry, Tina Thompson, not Tina Charles. Tina
Oh,
Thompson.
I knew you meant Tina Thompson. Tina Thompson is a beast. I used to always go, TT, the way she played.
Yeah.
She faced the basket, she shot threes, and she played with her back to the basket too. And I was like, okay, this is good because it gives me an opportunity, and there's someone that's already doing what I want to do. And now when she gets double teamed, it makes my job so much easier. She made it super easy. I think her, Cheryl, Coop was the one that truly made my journey there special, because she took me under her wing. When she worked out, I was there working out, doing guard workouts. And she was just like, dang, you need to work more on facing up. Like, do you realize how unstoppable that is? And she was always in my ear, always on me in games. She's tough like Pat. She's like that player coach on the floor. And she'd just be like, look, Snow, we need you to step up. Da, 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 da. And Coop is amazing. Like, she's the one that really just took me under her wing and let me do my thing.
Yeah. So did your parents get to go to any games throughout your career?
Oh man, my family rolls 60 deep. They come to Houston every year, and I have remember it's Sunday dinners. That's what our Sunday dinners look like. So at least once a year, all of them would try to come out at the same time. And that's the best thing in the world, to look up and see your family being treated like royalty. They're getting ushered in, they're getting the royal treatment. So that's something everyone wants their family to experience. And some of their best memories is going to Tennessee games and going to the games out in Houston and Atlanta.
Yeah, so this is where it gets interesting. So in 2008, obviously you went overseas after Houston. But did you get tell our fans? Did you get any other offers from any other WNBA teams, or what was it like transitioning from the WNBA to overseas right away like that?
It was easy because the overseas teams come to you. They go to your agent, and you get lots of offers. My first year out, my rookie year, I went to Ramleh, which is one of the top teams over in Israel. They win every year. And I actually got fired from that team, got picked up by a Russian team. I was like, I'm not going to Russia. I don't want to go to Russia. I'm scared. Best decision I ever made was to go there, because at this point, when you're fired, you got to redeem yourself.
Yeah.
I wanted to play on the Olympic team. My team in Israel didn't want me to. And I was like, that's not an opportunity I'm willing to give up, and you don't have the right to ask me to give that up. So I left and I went to the Olympic team tryouts. I came back, I was fired. And a guy, Shoptai, very famous guy within women's basketball, calls me up and basically asked me, would you please just come here for a week, see what it's like? I went there, I didn't like anything about it. Then he put a whole bunch of money as a signing bonus in my account, and I was like, I can learn to like it. We ended up going to the Final Four, and I'm now one of the biggest players in Europe with my name. When you're in the finals and things like that, you're going to get all the opportunities you want. So that, with being in the WNBA, is really what lit my career up.
So obviously you came back to WNBA, and I want to talk about your overseas experience. And obviously they play a different style than the American basketball. So what was that like for you? How long did it take you to adjust to the game and the culture, even the culture, language barrier, or was there any language barrier
Oh, absolutely. The game, easy, because I like to face up. So I fit perfectly in the European game because it's advanced beyond the game in America. That's the reason the American game has become so advanced, is because of European basketball.
Yeah.
And the culture barrier, that is something that took me from being a shy introvert to now I appear as an extrovert. I'm not. Is learning different cultures, when you need to order food, when you need to get directions. Anything that happens, you're relying on a teammate or someone in that front office or your translator, and you really depend on them for every little thing. And they get to know you over time, and you get to know them. And there's no way you don't understand more about the culture. Like, you start understanding, like, we're all humans, everybody's the same, and everybody has the same goals. You start talking about religion and politics and realize it's the same game everywhere you go, with just different names and different leaders in the forefront. So it was really interesting. It broadened my mind a lot.
Yeah. So for you, obviously, if you look at your resume, I mentioned earlier, maybe before we got started, you won the championship, the NWBL champion, and then you got the Israel national champion and Euro Cup. So what was that like, winning those championships overseas and knowing that you worked hard over there too?
It was amazing because you had to go through so much more to win that championship. From you're on the floor trying to tell someone to rebound in another language, and you only have a split second to remember what the wording is and understand the plays. There's so many, your coach calls a timeout and they're talking in another language, and your translator has to give you the summarized version, and you got to go out and execute that perfectly.
Right.
It's very difficult. The travel is difficult. Sometimes you're busing somewhere 6-8 hours. I know we would take trains. There was one trip in Russia that was 24 hours on a train.
Ooh.
And then you get off that train, you have no legs, and you got to play and ball out because you're playing against one of the better teams in Russia. It's just different. It's very, very different. But it's a lot of fun too. So don't get me wrong. There are pros and cons to everything. But those championships over there are much harder than in the States.
Yeah, obviously, when you the fan base there is crazier overseas, and they're passionate about their teams. And so when you won that championship in front of those fans, and what was that like? The celebration like? Obviously, I think it was big, right? For sure.
Oh yeah. Like I've been to like 6 or 7 Final Fours overseas, and those fans are coming out the stands. You're getting trampled. It's different. You're trying to get to your car and everyone's in the parking lot. Like it turns into a party and everyone's cheering. The city is the same way, kind of like it is here in the States. It's sometimes those cities are smaller, sometimes they're bigger, but it's a ton of fun. Like I have so much fun overseas. It's kind of like loving basketball. When they say you're Michael Jordan over here, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So speaking of language, when you did you have like a translator with you, but over the time though, did you learn any of the language, and can you speak it now?
A little bit, but I haven't spoken in so long that I don't remember. Korea, I definitely had a translator there. Russia, I learned how to read it. I could say it, but they would get upset because I wouldn't say it with their accent, which is really rough. Like I'd be like, "Dos vedonya," and they'd be like, "Dos vedonya." I'd be like, I don't want to say it like that. That doesn't sound like good morning. It doesn't sound happy. So different countries were very different, but I always learned a few things. How to say practice is over, I'm hungry. I learned directions because when you're in a taxi and you're not driving, you want to know how to say left, right, straight so you can get home. And then certain foods, you want to understand how to say and order foods in restaurants, how to say thank you, goodbye. So the main things I learned, and then I did have a translator on my phone that would translate and speak it in any language. So I didn't put much effort into learning. I know that's sad, very terrible, especially when I was in Russia for 5 years and Turkey for 4. But I would learn certain things, but I never put a ton of effort into learning it.
Yeah, so now after overseas, you went back to the WNBA with the Atlanta Dream, Chicago Sky, San Antonio Silver Stars. And would you say playing overseas and getting that experience helped you become a better player to come back to the WNBA?
I'll be honest, I thought overseas cultured me.
Okay.
Coming from a small town, having a very narrow-minded way of thinking, I thought I became very cultured from playing overseas and got a better understanding of humanity and people in general. My game was already diverse before, so it was just, you got a kid playing like a point guard in a 6'5" body. It's just really hard to stop that, whether that's in the WNBA or overseas. I think you learn like the Euro step and certain moves like that. There's different ways of playing, but I felt like my game has kind of been the same throughout. Like I've kept it pretty consistent. And I had all those moves before I got to either one.
Yeah. So what was it like playing for the Dream, Chicago Sky, Silver Stars, and obviously you got to play with Angel McCoughtry throughout your career, and you got to play with Tamara Young 2 times with the Dream and Chicago Sky too. So what was that like?
Oh yeah, Ty's cool people. Angel, that was my rookie when I came over to Atlanta. It was ton, and we had great conversations. We sit and just talk in the room for hours and just helping her to transition into the league and understand what it took and what she was capable of. That was a lot of fun because your role kind of changes as you stay in the league. You become that veteran that has to make sure everybody else is good. And after having such great veterans in Houston, it was my turn to do the same thing for others. And then Ty, she's just cool people, man. Everybody knows her. Everybody loves her. She's got a great spirit about her. So, but Atlanta was special because it's only 4 hours away from my hometown. So my family got to come up more and see more games. I had family at almost every game. And that was special for me because I always wanted to be in a position where they could enjoy the moment with me. And of course, every city I played in after Houston, I was like, I just want to jump around to every city.
Sorry, I forgot to mention Washington Mystics too. There you
go.
Yeah,
Washington Mystics, LA. I just wanted to hop around after that because I've been in Houston my whole career. I wanted to retire in Houston. That wasn't a possibility. So I was like, let's see what every other city is about and experience it. Your game has grown. People know what to expect from you now. Go and put yourself in different positions and take on that challenge. That was fun.
Yeah. Speaking of moving around, what did you like about that? For you moving to learning different personalities in the locker rooms, and obviously different coaches, different teams, and what was that like just to keep moving around and experiencing it?
For me, I was observing because I like to see how different teams function. I wanted to, more than anything, honestly, I wanted to see how the front office operated. So I would spend time with the owners. I would spend time up there learning how they market, how they did operations, the CBA agreement, all of that stuff. Because for me, I was thinking life after basketball.
Right.
How am I going to transition out of here? And they have tools and resources that are available that I need to leverage while I'm here and I have these relationships.
So now I want to ask you, tell our fans about the Olympics experience. Obviously, the women's basketball team USA. In 2000, you got the gold medal, 2006, the bronze. So what was that like getting 2 medals like in your career?
Man, you can't do anything but be proud. You're representing your country, something that you dream about as a kid when you're watching the Olympics, and now you're standing there doing the same thing. It was a ton of fun. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity and thankful.
Yeah. So what was it like? Obviously, what was it like the AllStar experience in the WNBA, being a 2-time AllStar and playing with different players and talented players? And what was that like, the AllStar experience for you?
It's fun. You're playing against the best of the best. It's like being at Tennessee again. Like you got the best players, or at Houston practices, we had the best players every day battling each other. So that's what the AllStar game is like, except it's very friendly. It's very laid back. Dunking in the AllStar, watching the fans go nuts. That's the kind of stuff that is memorable to me, and having fun and seeing people from other teams who are celebrating you and happy and proud that you're able to do it.
Yeah. So now I want to ask you, do you miss, obviously now after your career working on big things, but do you miss the game still? And do you think you can still play?
Definitely. I don't want to play. People ask me that all the time. I'm like, yo, I played like 16 years. I'm 41. I'm good. I didn't want to be the 40-year-old on the court. I never wanted to be that. I was like, I wanted to enjoy the ride while I could, experience, get the knowledge I needed from owners and people like that, and transition into the business world as quickly as possible. So skills, you learn how to read people, how to do things quickly, how to be adaptable. Those are all the things I learned while playing ball. So it made the transition easier. And I think it's really important because there needs to be representation that athletes are not just athletes. Get rid of that dumb athlete stereotype. Like, many people have their degrees and many people are very intelligent, and represent something for the younger generation to look up and see. And that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So now I want to talk to you about an important topic, women in sports. And obviously it's growing big time. And like, I have a team of 8 people here on my show helping out, and 4 of them are females. So I'm giving every opportunity to females to start their careers in sports broadcasting or whatever. And for you, what's it like seeing the growth of the women in sports, and seeing like players like Becky Hammond coaching in the NBA now, assistant coach, and what do you like the overall growth of women in sports?
But for me, seeing women in sports, because I played with Becky in San Antonio, so that's amazing seeing her work as hard as she is and seeing that hard work pay off. She's doing the same thing. She used those relationships in the front office, leveraged them, got in key positions, and took advantage of the opportunity. I think it's key. It's just like doing the WNBA podcast that we do every week with me and James out of the UK. We're doing that to get the exposure, and you're seeing the ratings go up, and that people want to see more women's sports. You have dads who are bringing their daughters to games, and both of them have on the jerseys. You see men acting bananas in the stands like I saw overseas 20 years ago. And I always told people it's coming here. It's just going to take time. And now with women being put in key roles, whether that's in the NBA, the WNBA, broadcasting, it's a beautiful thing to watch Sunday football and there's a woman on the sidelines reporting the game. It just shows equity, which is something we need to do as a global community.
Yeah. So speaking of podcasts, and obviously, what's it like sharing your story now on like this show, for example, and other shows that you've been on? What's it like sharing your story?
It's just fun because the point of sharing your story has one purpose and one purpose only. It is making sure that someone hears your story and says, I can do this. Oh, I'm having a rough time in college, but they're trying to make me into a better person. They see something I don't see. Mm-hmm. It's helping the younger generation like get it faster so they don't have to go through everything that I went through. Like I chose to bump heads for 4 years. I don't want them to do that. I want them to get it as soon as possible and make the most of their opportunities. But also when they get in the league, making sure they understand this is temporary. The average career is 3 years, 3 years for men or women. You better use this opportunity and leverage it to create the life you want long-term.
Yeah. So now I want to ask you about this year's season. Obviously, Chicago Sky, Phoenix Mercury, your former team, Chicago Sky. Just take me through. Obviously, this team's been through a lot and a lot of talent now. Obviously, Candace Parker. So let me get your reaction as a former player from that team. What was your reaction when Candace Parker decided to come back home?
I thought it made perfect sense for her story and her narrative, everything that she's creating and doing. Like she went from Naperville to Tennessee, out to LA, won in all 3 spots. Then it's like, let me bring it back home to Chicago. And even how she's honoring the legends and the GOATs that have come before her, wearing their jerseys before games, coming out with her epic Adidas collection. Like she's doing so many things on and off the court. You want to see her win. You want to see her succeed. Like the face of NBA 2K. Like there's so many things she's doing. And I don't know. I think she's a great representation of what's possible. Like, stop saying that you can only play basketball and this is the only thing that you can do. You can juggle all of these things. You just got to be willing to put in the work and the effort. And she has done that for an extended period of time, her entire career. So you want to see her win. You want to see Pokey. You want to see everyone in that organization win because they've been working and fighting for so long. Chicago's always been on the brink and always had great teams. So to see them finally put all the pieces together, you got to be happy. Like I want her to bring it home wearing those orange shoes with the Pat Summitt on one tongue and her daughter on the other.
Yeah. So speaking of, let me get your quick reaction on this finals, and obviously it's gonna be a tough one. Phoenix obviously has Skylar Diggins, Brittany Griner, and obviously Diana Taurasi, the big three. And so for you, what do you think Chicago needs to do to beat them in the finals?
They got to show up and just keep playing the way they have been. They've already shown that they've taken down Connecticut, the #1 team, the best defensive team throughout the entire season. They've dominated the WNBA, and now they're not in the playoffs. So Chicago has shown that they have what it takes. They're going to play physical. They're going to push the ball. They got great decision makers and Allie Quigley, like Vandersloot. They got Dolson in the post. That's going to be a great matchup with her and Griner. I'm really interested to see how that works because Griner is more of a post like me and Dolson is more of the traditional post. So it'll be fun to watch the two of them play. DT with the fractured foot will be interesting. Will she be able to keep playing? Is it going to get worse? Like there's so many intangibles that are related to this game. Like Sophie Cunningham, is she going to be back? You got ACL injuries now. It's injuries, it's rest. There's so many things that play into it. Everyone knows your plays now. How are you going to tweak them and adapt and adjust? And I think the biggest component is the boards. Whoever owns the boards usually wins the game. That's how the playoffs have been going. And then the second component is the bench play. Getting key numbers from your bench so that you can rest players, because both teams have been playing the entire series. They didn't get the bye or the double bye like every other team did.
So this is a 2-part question. What what would you say your best moment was throughout your career? And also, what do you consider, if the right opportunity comes up, what do you consider being an assistant coach?
Definitely don't want to be an assistant coach. I've already told, I don't want to be a coach. I've never wanted to be a coach. Training, maybe for kids that want it. I don't mind doing private training. I just don't want to deal with a team where you got to beg people to play hard and like, it's not my thing. My favorite moment as an athlete is probably dunking in college, and then my championships overseas, and then probably my experience with the Houston Comets. Like, I absolutely enjoyed playing there. Yeah. It was great for me to kind of finally play my way and show the world who I was and what I could do. But the Tennessee dunk is definitely up there, like Hawaii. That was a ton of fun, hanging on the rim like I was crazy. And then the one against Vandy, which was our enemy, that was like our in-state rival team. That was a ton of fun. And then like that, the dunking was fun. Like, it brought fans from both sides, whether they were my fan or not. And it just brought everybody in the room together. And to me, it heightened women's basketball.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Did your dunk with the Tennessee make this Sports Center top 10?
Oh, it was number one for the year.
Number one, yeah, number one, right? Yeah. So the last two things here for you before I let you go. Our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He's now the offensive coordinator at Tennessee State with Eddie George, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. So I'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out. Absolutely. And then I'll post that as well with the video link for fans. Thank you. Yeah, that'd be awesome. And we're trying. It's still horrible out there what we're seeing, and we're trying every possible way to stop this from happening. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now? For me, to all the essential workers, we got a huge thank you. We appreciate you guys. Don't know where we'd be without you. Please stay safe. And to all the other viewers, make sure you guys tell them thank you, and you show them they're pulling some long hours, double shifts to make sure that we all stay safe. Yeah, well said. And there it is. That wraps up episode 918 with former Tennessee Volunteer, power forward center who played in the WNBA, two-time WNBA AllStar, and also obviously played overseas, got NWBA champion, Israel National League champion, Euro Cup winner. She did it all throughout her career. Obviously a gold medalist, bronze medalist, Team USA. Now she's doing big things in the business world. So Michelle Snow, I just want to say thank you for joining the show today. It was truly an honor. I learned a lot from this, and we would like to have you back on the show at some point down the line so you can meet the full team. But keep up the great work. You had a heck of a career. You went through a lot. You kept working hard, and you got to your goal. And you got to play with one of the best coaches ever to live, the late Pat Summitt. So that was amazing. So for you, thank you again, and stay safe. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye, guys. Yep. Thank you.